Welcome all students to the course of Data Communication and Networking, B7th semester Electronics and Communication Engineering. We are discussing a unit 5 of a local area network, in which we start our topic called as an connecting LANs, backbone networks and virtual LANs. So our LANs do not normally operate in isolation. They are connected in one another or to the internet. To connect our LANs or segment of our LANs, we use a connecting devices. A connecting devices can operate in a different layers of an internet model. This topic we discuss only those that operate in this physical and the data link layers. We discuss those that operate in the first three layer in a later chapter. After discussing some connecting devices, we saw how they are used to create a backbone network. And finally, we discuss a virtual local area networks called as an VLANs. Fine. So start with our first point is connecting LANs. So a connecting devices. In this section, we divide a connecting device into the 5 different categories based on their layer in which they can operate in our network. So it is a list out of our different points to be discussed in this section: passive hub, active hub, bridges, 2-layer switches, routers, 3-layer switches and gateway. So before going further, let's consider this figure of 5 categories of our connecting devices. The 5 categories contain devices which can be defined as those which operate below the physical layer, such as a passive hub; those which is operate at a physical layer, at called as an repeater or an active hub; those which can operate at a physical and the data link layer, which is called as a bridge or a 2-layer switch over here; and those which operate at a physical layer, data link layer and network layer, called as an router or 3-layer switch; those which can operate all at 5-layer, called as an gateway. So this figure shows you the application of various connecting devices in our layered structure. So passive hub is the below physical layer; repeater hub use only physical; bridge or 2-layer switch use a data link and physical; router or 3-layer switch uses network, data link and physical; and gateway uses all the layers. Fine. So let's start with our passive hub. A passive hub is just a connector. It connects the wires coming from the different branches. In a star topology Ethernet LAN, a passive hub is just a point where signals coming from the different station collide, and the hub is collision point. This type of the hub is the part of our media, and its location in the internet model is below the physical layer. Fine. So it is our passive hub. Next is repeater or our active hub. A repeater is a device that operates only at a physical layer. Signals that carry information within the network can travel a fixed distance from an attenuation integers and the integrity of the data. A repeater receives a signal and before it becomes too weak or corrupted, regenerates the original bit pattern. So the no data loss can be there. A repeater can then sends the refreshed signal, a repeater can extend a physical length of our LAN. So it is clearly showing that suppose our signal will travel up to this end, after that end it will degrade or the quality of signal is decreasing. So our repeater will come into the picture there, then our signal will be regenerated and its quality will be maintained to reach its destination. A repeater does not actually connect a two lanes, it just connects two segments of our same LAN. The segments connected are still part of a one single LAN. A repeater is not a device that can connect two lanes of a different protocol. So a repeater connects a segment of the LAN, not the lanes. A repeater can overcome the 10/5 Ethernet length restriction. In this standard, the length of the cable is limited to 500 meters. To extend this length, we divide the cable into the segments and install the repeater between the segments. Note that the whole network is still considered a one LAN, but the portion of the network separated by repeaters are called as segments. The repeater acts as a two-port node but operates only a physical layer. When it receives a frame from any ports, it regenerates and forwards it to the another port. Fine. So we can say that a repeater just forwards every frame. There is no filtering capacity. It is tempting to compare a repeater to an amplifier, but the comparison is inaccurate. An amplifier cannot discriminate between the intended signal and noise. It amplifies equally everything feed into it. A repeater does not amplify the signal. It regenerates the signal. When it receives a weak signal or a corrupt signal, it creates a copy, bit by bit, bit for bit, at the original strength. So we can say that our repeater is a regenerator, not an amplifier. A location of a repeater on a link is vital. A repeater must be placed so that a signal reaches it before any noise changes the meaning of any bits. Fine. So in other words, we can say that a repeater must be a place where a signal quality does not degrade up to that distance. After that distance, signal quality will be degraded. Fine. A little noise can alter the precision of a bit's voltage without destroying its identity. If a corrupted bit travels much further, however, an accumulated noise can change its meaning completely. At that point, our original voltage is not recoverable and the error needs to be corrected. A repeater placed on the line before the legibility of a signal becomes lost can still read the signal well enough to determine the intended voltage and replicate them in a original form. So over here, right to left transmission, our corrupted signal will be travel through the repeater, then it is regenerated. In this left to right transmission, our signal will be placed in the repeater, then it will be regenerated. Fine. So it is a function of our repeater. Next is active hubs. An active hub is actually a multi-point repeater. It is normally used to create connections between the station in a physical star topology. We have seen examples of hubs in some Ethernet implementation, just like our 10/T. However, hubs can also be used to create a multiple levels of our hierarchy, as you can see in this figure. Our hierarchical use of a hub removes the length limitation of 10 base t, just like our 100 meters. Fine. So these are the active hubs. Next is bridge. A bridge operates in a both physical and the data link layer. As a physical layer device, it regenerates the signal it receives. As a data link layer device, a bridge can check the physical, just like our MAC address and source and destination contained in a frame. So for that, filtering concept is there. So what is a filtering? What is the difference between a functionality between the bridge and the repeater? Fine. So bridge has a filtering capability where a repeater does not have this capability. It can check the destination address of a frame and decide if the frame should be forwarded or dropped. If the frame is not to be forwarded, the decision must specify the port. A bridge has a table that map addresses to the port. So we can say that a bridge has a table used in a filtering decision. Let's have an example. In figure, two lanes are there, lane 1 and lane 2, which are connected through the bridge. If a frame destined for the station 712B 13456142 over here arrives at a port 1, the bridge consults its table to find out the departing port. According to the table over here 42, the frames for this leave through the port 1. Therefore, there is no need for forwarding. The frame is dropped. On the other hand, if the frame of a 41 arrives at port 2, the departing point is port 1, so the frame is forwarded. In the first case, lane 2 remains free of a traffic. In the second case, both lanes have traffic. For our example, we showed the 2-port bridge. In the reality, the bridge usually have more ports. You also note that a bridge does not change the physical address contained in a frame. Right? It does not change the physical address. So we can say that a bridge does not change the physical or a MAC address in a frame. Next is a transparent bridges. A transparent bridge is a bridge in which the station are completely unaware of a bridge existence. If a bridge is added or deleted from the system, reconfiguration of the station is unnecessary. According to the IEEE 802.1d specification, a system equipped with a transparent bridge must meet these 3 criteria. First, frame must be forwarded from the one station to another. Second, a forwarding table is automatically made by the learning frame movements in the network, means it will be updated as per our frame direction. Third is loops in the system must be prevented, means if there is any loop in our network must be removed. Fine. So it is a transparent bridge. Next point is a learning. A particular table learns a frame direction called as an learning. Earliest bridges had forwarding tables that are static. The system's administrator would manually enter each table entry during the bridge setup. Although the process was simple, it was not a practical. If a station was added or deleted, the table had to be modified manually. The same was true if the station's MAC address changed. This is not a rare event. For example, putting in a new network card means a new MAC address. A better solution to the static table is a dynamic table that maps the address to the ports automatically. To make a table dynamic, we need a bridge and gradually learns from the frame movements. As I already told you, it will learn or update the table as per the frame's movement. To do this, our bridge inspects both the destination and the source address. The destination address is used for a forwarding decision, just like our table lookup. The source address is used for adding entries to table and for updating the process. Let us elaborate this process through this figure. First, when our station A sends a frame to the station D, the bridge does not have any entry for the either D or A. Fine. The frame goes out from all the three ports 1, 2 and 3. The frame floods the network. However, there looking at the source address, the bridge learns that the station A must be located on the LAN connected to the port 1. This means that the frame destined for A in future must be sent through the port 1. Means any frame coming to the station A which will be forwarded to the port 1. This means that the frame destined for A in future must be sent through the port 1. The bridge added this entry to this table. Fine. So over here address A have a port 1. The table has its first entry now. Okay. When our station E sends a frame to the station A, a bridge has an entry for A so that the frame only to the port 1 can be sent. There is no flooding. In addition, it uses the source address for the frame E and add the second entry to the table where our E is connected to the port 3. So our E have a port 3. When our station B sends a frame to C over here LAN 2, the bridge has no entry for a C. So once again it flooded the network and add one more entry to the table, means B have a port 1. So look at over here, B have 1. So in our previous discussion we have discussed a loop problem. So what is a loop problem? So let's define a loop problem. A transparent bridge work fine as long as there is no redundant bridges in the system. A system administrator, however, like to have a redundant bridges, more than one bridges between the pair of LANs to make a system more reliable. If a bridge fails, another bridge takes the advantage over until a failed one is repaired or replaced. Redundancy can create loops in a system, which is very undesirable. Our figure shows a very simple example of a loop created in a system with a two LAN connected by the two bridges. Step 1. When a station A sends a frame to the station D, the table of both bridges are empty. Fine, both bridges have a empty table. Both forward the frame and update their tables based on their source of A. Now there are two copies of frames on a LAN 1 or LAN 2. The copy sent out by the bridge 1 is received by the bridge 2, which does not have any information about the destination address D. So 2 copies of LAN 2. It floods the bridge, and the copy sent out by the bridge 2 is received by the bridge 1 and is sent out for the lack of information about the D. Note that each frame is handled separately because the bridges, the two nodes on the network sharing medium, can use the access medium such as CSMS CD. The table of both bridges were updated, but still there is no information about the destination D. Fine. So there is no over here no destination details available. In the 3, now there are 2 copies of frame 1 LAN. Our step 2 is repeated both copies for flooded the network. In the 4th, the process continues on. Note that the bridges are also repeaters and regenerates the frames. So in each iteration they are newly generated fresh copies of the frames. Fine. So over here the loop will be continuous. To solve the looping problem, the IEEE specification requires that bridges uses the spanning tree algorithm to create a loopless topology. So what is a spanning tree algorithm? A spanning tree is a graph in which there is no loop. In a bridge LAN, this means creating a topology in which each LAN can be reached from any other LANs through one path only, means no loop. We cannot change the physical topology of the system because the physical connection between the cables and the bridges, but we can create a logical topology that overlays the physical one. Our figure shows a system with 4 LANs 1 2 3 4 and 5 bridges 1 2 3 4 5 bridges. We have shown a physical system and its representation in a graph theory. Fine. We have shown a physical system and its representation in a graph theory. Although some textbook represents a LANs as a nodes and bridges as the connecting arcs, we have shown both LANs and bridges as a node. The connecting arcs shows the connection of a LANs over here, connection of a LANs to the bridges and vice versa. To find a spanning tree, we need to assign a cost or a metric to each arc. Fine. To find the spanning tree and its arc, the interpretation of the nodes, the path with minimum delay or the path with a maximum bandwidth. If 2 ports have a same shortest value, the system administrator just chooses one. If 2 ports have a same shortest value, the system administrator just chooses one only, which is very desirable. We have chosen a minimum loops or minimum hops. However, the hop count is normally 1 from a bridges to LAN and 0 for a reverse direction. So over here, bridges to LAN the hop count is 1 and LAN to bridges hop count will be 0. The process to find a spanning tree involves 3 steps. First is every bridge has a built-in ID, just as serial number which is unique. Each bridge broadcasts its ID so that all bridges know that which one of has a smallest ID. The bridge with a smallest ID is selected as a root bridge, the root of a tree. We assume that a bridge B1 has the smallest ID. It is therefore selected as a root bridge. Fine, over here a orange color box. algorithm tries to find out the shortest path with the shortest cost from our root bridge to every other LAN or a bridge. Fine. The shortest path can be found by examining the total cost from the root bridge to its destination. Our figure shows the shortest path. Fine. The combination of the shortest path create a shortest tree, which is also now shown in this figure. Based on the spanning tree, we mark the ports that are part of the spanning tree, the forwarding ports, which is forward the frame and bridges receives. We also mark those ports that are not a part of the spanning tree, just like our blocking ports, which blocks the frame received by the bridge. Fine. So over here we just derive a spanning tree. You can see that to reach the B3 we are going this direction. To reach LAN 3 we have 1 and 2 ports over here. To reach B5 we have this direction. Fine. Yes, our figure shows a physical system of a LAN with a forwarding ports. So it is our forwarding ports, just like our solid line. You can see it is a forwarding ports and a blocking ports, just like our dashed line. Fine. So there are blocking ports. Note that there is only one single path from any LAN to other LAN in a spanning tree system. This means that only one single path from one LAN to the another LAN is available. No loop are created over here. You can prove to yourself that there is only one path from LAN 1 to LAN 2, LAN 3, LAN 4. Similarly, there is only one path from LAN 2 to LAN 1, 2, 3, etc. etc. Fine. Yes. Next point is dynamic algorithm. We have described a spanning tree algorithm as through it is required manual entries. This is not true. Each bridge is equipped with a software package that carries out this process dynamically. A bridge is that send a special message to one another called as an bridge control data units called as an BPUDU to update the spanning tree. The spanning tree is updated when there is a chance in the system, such as a failure of a bridge or a addition or a deletion of a bridge. Next is source routing bridges. Another way to prevent a loop in a system is a redundant bridges uses the source routing bridges. A transparent bridge's duties include filtering frames, forwarding and blocking. In a system that has a source routing bridges, these duties are performed by the source station and to some extent the destination address or a destination station. In our source routing, a sending station defines a bridge that is frame must visit. The address of this bridge were included in the frame. In other words, the frame contains not only the source and the destination address but also the address of all bridges to be visited. The source gets this bridge address through the exchange of the special frames with a destination prior to sending the data frame. Source routing bridges were designed by the IEEE to use with a token ring LANs and This type of lens are not very common today. Okay, next point, last point of today's section is bridges connecting different LANs. Theoretically, a bridge should be able to connect LANs using the different protocols at a data link layer, such as Ethernet LAN to a wireless LAN. However, there are many issues to be considered. So listed over here that frame format, maximum data size, data rate, bit order, security and multimedia support. So let's discuss each. In the first, frame format, each LAN type has its own frame format, just like our Ethernet frame with our wireless frame. Next is maximum data size. If an incoming frame size is too large for our destination LAN, the data must be fragmented into the several frames. The data then need to be reassembled and at the destination address. However, no protocol at the data link layer allows a fragmentation and reassembly of a frame. We will see later in the chapter that it is allowed in a network layer only. The bridge must be therefore discard any frames which are too large for its system. Data rate. Each LAN type has its own data rate. Compare the 10 Mbps data rate on the Ethernet with a 1 Mbps data rate of a wireless LAN. The bridge must be a buffer the frame to compensate this difference. Bit order. Each LAN type has its own strategy in a sending of a bits. Some send the most significant bit in the byte first, others send the least significant bit byte first. Security. Some LANs, such as a wireless LANs, implement a security measures in the data link layer. Other LANs, such as Ethernet, do not. Security often involves encryption. When a bridge receives a frame from a wireless LAN, it needs to decrypt the message before forwarding to the Ethernet LAN. Fine. So encryption decryption should be covered in this security portion. Last is multimedia support. Some LANs support multimedia and the quality of service needed for this type of a communication, where others does not. Okay, so it is our end of our session. Let's revise our discussion. We have started a new point, connecting LANs. We have defined various connecting devices in each layer of our internet model: passive hub, repeater, bridge, router and gateway. We start with our passive hubs, then a repeater, a function of a repeater, various active hubs, a bridges concept and its port addressing, a transparent bridge, then how to update a table of our bridge with the help of the diagram, a looping problem and its solution, a spanning tree, various forwarding and blocking ports using a spanning tree algorithm, a dynamic algorithm and source routing bridges. At last, which parameter to be considered for connecting a bridge is with a different LANs. So it is a question for you. Write down in your notebook and send back it to me as per the given direction. Okay students, see you in the next session.